Okay, so I've got my entire laboratory set up for sausage making. It's kind of an intense process, but the end product is worth it. It's a little bit difficult, kind of hard to get the feel of, but it's something that's really fun to play with and experiment with. What I have here is just an old school hand crank meat grinder. Just like that. You can kind of compare it to one of the old kind of pasta makers that you clamp it onto the edge of a counter or anything and just crank away. The meat gets pushed through. There's a fine mesh blade in there. I have it on the finest setting. And then I have a small tube that you'll see we do the casings over to push the meat literally to make the sausage out of it. So that's set up. And then the other thing you want to have going are your casings. Now I have pork or pig casings here. They're the small kind. And I have about, I'd say 4 feet worth. Do about 4 feet for this recipe because then you're kind of safe if you accidentally tear one or if there's a hole in one, anything like that. So what they're doing is just sitting in some nice purified water with a little bit of just a splash basically of a white simple vinegar. What that does is it takes any of that cloudy color out of it and that unsavory taste. A lot of the times if you get like a sausage with the casing is a little bit too thick or when you cook it it's a little cloudy, it's because it wasn't rinsed in a vinegar solution. So before we use it, we'll rinse it out one more time in the sink and we'll be good to go. Now when we're looking at hot dogs, we could do a big kind of really curby, intense bun with the ketchup and all the toppings. I kind of feel bad about that. What I want to do is just like pure meat, some nice mustard, some caramelized onions, and like call it a day with that. So I'm going to get some caramelized onions started. It's a really simple process. Just get yourself a big pan. This is a nice deep one. I have about a tablespoon's worth of olive oil going. And it's on a medium heat. And I have 4 onions that I basically just sliced. You want to do 1/2 inch thick. Just keep them all uniform so they cook the same, right? So right on into the pan with these. And we'll basically get them sauteing. We want to get them nice and soft. And then what we'll do is as they start getting that browning color, you'll see like the brown start forming on the bottom of the pan. We deglaze it with some chicken stock. You could use veggie stock, but come on, this isn't a vegetarian meal. Use a good organic chicken stock, deglaze it with about 1/4 cup's worth. Keep mixing it, let it reduce, let it get some browning again, deglaze it again. We're going to do this like 6 times until our onions are like this gorgeous caramel brown color, and they're amazing. So we're going to work on our hot dogs while these are working. So my onions are rolling, and I'm going to keep my eye on them because I want to look for that browning. Once that starts occurring, deglaze with your stock. In the meantime, I'm going to get everything mixed up for the nice sausage stuffing. So what I have is 2 pounds worth of a nice grass-fed organic beef, but get the highest fat content that you can because sausage has a tendency to dry out. A lot of the times people add pork fat to it to kind of really make it delicious and fatty so that it doesn't dry out when you're cooking it. So in this case, just get the fattiest beef you can get. I don't really want to add pork fat to mine. So what I'm going to do is just put it into a food processor with like a serious blade on it. And I might have to do this in a couple batches. That's okay. Push everything down. We'll leave that for right now. And then for my spices, I have marjoram, coriander, sweet paprika, a little bit of ground mustard seed, white pepper. You can use that just if you don't want to see big peppery flakes. Honestly, I don't care. White pepper is just a little bit more strong. And then about a teaspoon's worth of salt and a teaspoon's worth of sugar. And of course, you can adjust those accordingly. Use your favorite spices. You could add some heat to this with some chilies, anything like that. Then what I'm going to do is add 1/4 cup's worth of a finely minced onion and 2 garlic cloves. I think the garlic is super important. You don't have to do 2, you could do 1, at least 1. 1 egg white. And then I have about 1/4 cup's worth of a nice organic whole milk. We'll grind this first batch here in our food processor. Okay. So once the meat mix starts to get much thinner and all the liquids get incorporated, let's add the rest of this ground beef. So I'm just going to keep pulsing it till everything is nice and tight and mixed really well.
You make them like look great, but they're like not.
So I transferred my meat mix into a nice big bowl. My onions are nice and happy. What I'm going to do is get these sausage casings ready. When you pull them out of the case, I recommend holding your nose. It's not the most pleasant thing, but it's one of our traditional food habits, right? You got to kind of put up with it if you want delicious hot dogs. I'm just going to rinse them under cold water. Make sure that solution kind of gets rinsed off. I'll drain the rest. And let's pick up this last one. And you just kind of want to work your way all the way over it. Alrighty, these are good to go. So what you do is you find the end of one of them, get yourself a plate. This will kind of catch everything as we go. Make some room here. So find the end of one of these guys, and basically you just have to figure out how it opens. So this one, kind of search around with your finger a little bit, find the opening, put it over the nozzle, and then you want to really delicately slide it all the way to the back of the funnel. Be really careful doing this because you don't want to tear them. Very nice and gentle. And this is actually one of the most time-consuming parts, but you have to be careful with it. Okay, so when you get to the end, I'm just going to tie off a little knot here. And it just kind of gives you a reference point, I guess. So we'll get our sausage casing all the way to that knot, as close as we can get it. And we're going to start off with a nice hefty spoonful in our grinder. Before I do that, I'm going to give these onions a nice little deglaze again. That's that sound you want to hear. You want to hear that brown, good stuff coming off the bottom of the pan. Give them a little stir, and then they'll be good for another couple minutes. We're already getting some really kind of pretty golden brown color on these puppies. Okay, sausage time. So I'm going to start off by working a nice big spoonful in and grind away, and it should start feeding in. And as it makes room, you just keep adding more. Okay, so at the end of the day, we basically have 6.5-ish really beautiful big dogs. I had the help of my assistant. I basically cranked and fed the sausage out, and she kept feeding the meat. That's one of the things that you have to deal with an old school hand crank meat grinder like this. If you have one of the newer industrial ones or the kind that attaches to your KitchenAid, it doesn't take quite as long. This took a little while, but they're like beautiful artisan handmade sausages. So you can see everything in here, that milk and that egg white, they serve as a binder when you kind of par cook it, and it stays in that nice beautiful sausage shape. So I have a pot of water going at a really low simmer. And we're just gonna let it sit in there for about 20 minutes to par cook so everything keeps its shape. After they simmer, we'll pull them out of the water, let them drain, pat the water off with like a paper towel, and then you just basically throw them on the grill for about 4 minutes, 3 minutes on each side till they get that nice kind of grill mark on them, and then they're like good to go. So I'm gonna pop these in my simmering water. So my hot dogs finished parboiling in that simmering water. They had about 15-20 minutes to get nice and solid. I basically took a nice pair of shears to cut in between each link, and I just laid them out on my grill pan, or of course if this was the 4th of July, you'd be doing it on a real grill. And I'm just gonna give them about 4 minutes per side, get those nice grill marks on them, serve those beautiful caramelized onions right on top. It took about 6 times deglazing my pan to get that gorgeous auburn brown color out of those onions. I'll do a little bit of mustard, and I'll show you how to put this together. Okay, these doggies are hot, and I'm ready to eat. I'm gonna pull them off into a nice little platter here. We'll top them off with our caramelized onions, and then we'll get this feast put together. So you want to look for that nice kind of grill mark where you see those little pockets just ready to explode when you crack into them. Here's our extra little guy from our leftover sausage. So you want to kind of use everything that you've got. We'll just tuck them in right there. Take some of these beautiful onions. They are so sweet and melty and amazing. I really wish you guys could like try this right now. That's why you have to try it at home. Just give these like some massive onion love right now. Here we go. A little bit more. We'll put these guys to the side. I'm gonna grab my corn, my watermelon, some mustard for the dogs, and we're ready for the 4th of July. So I've got my dogs. I have this beautiful Old World stone ground mustard. It's gonna be amazing. My corn, it's been staying warm in the oven. That cojita cheese kind of melts down. And just to pretty up the presentation, I'm going to give it some beautiful fresh cilantro. Can't go wrong with that. My salad, it's been chilled, staying cool. And this is that really nice agua fresca I made out of my extra watermelon. Remember, you just blend it, strain it, and you're good to go. So when we're talking about 4th of July, this is my idea of an amazing meal. I would way, way rather do this any day of the week instead of baked beans and greasy burgers and all those kind of bad things you feel bad about. Wonderful, sustainable, local, seasonal ingredients. You guys try the best version of this you can do at home. Remember, there's no messing it up. Just try it the way you like it, and I know you're going to love it. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.